39 years ago, my biological mother was actually forced into a saline infusion abortion. And that type of procedure involved injecting a toxic salt solution into the womb. That toxic salt solution should have poisoned me, burned away the top layer of my skin, and my life should have been ended before she ultimately delivered a deceased child.
But you were delivered alive.
I was.
But injured, right? Alive but injured.
Yeah, people would never guess by looking at me today that when I first survived, I was fighting for my life. I weighed a little less than 3 pounds. I suffered from severe respiratory and liver problems, seizures. The doctors didn't believe I would live for very long, and if I did, I would suffer from multiple disabilities.
What's fascinating about your story is that a couple decided to adopt you. So there you are. You could be a very expensive child to have who may or may not survive, and they took you on. Why did they do that?
Yeah, it's true, right? My parents really didn't have a penny to their name. And here they were adopting this child who had all of these predictions about their health and their life. And my parents were just very faithful people who knew that they were called to be my parents.
I love that. You already see the hand of God so early in your life when your life should have ended and you survived. And then these people came along. You didn't find out for quite a while about that you were the product of a failed abortion attempt. When did you find out?
I was actually 14. Grew up knowing I was adopted, but didn't find out that I survived the abortion until I was 14. And it was absolutely devastating.
How did it impact you?
It impacted every part of my life, you know, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was ashamed, embarrassed, felt guilty. I was angry. You know, I told some people the other day, it impacted my relationship with God. You know, I questioned how that could be the plan, in a good way, right? But also at the same time, kind of questioned how this could be the plan for my life. It was a very scary place and time for me.
It had a bad effect on your life too. What was happening to you in this time?
I didn't want to be this person years ago. You know, now I am so thankful that this is who God made me to be. But yeah, I struggled with an eating disorder, alcohol abuse, poor dating relationships, because I was trying to distance myself from everything that I felt on the inside. And I always tell people, nobody but Jesus saved me from myself.
How did you turn that around? How did you get out of that spiral? Because a lot of people don't.
The support of my family. I knew I was deeply loved. You know, even though my parents didn't understand the depths of my suffering, I knew how much I was loved, and they raised me with a strong faith. And so I knew God intended more for me than how I was living my life. And, you know, I came to accept that He makes no mistakes. And truly, I think forgiving my biological parents, even though I didn't know everything about my life back then, forgiving them truly set me free.
I know you said when you started talking that your mom was forced into it, but at that time you didn't know why your mom tried to abort you. So as far as you knew, she didn't want you at all. You know, how was that journey of forgiveness, not knowing what the story was, but thinking probably it's something terrible? How did that unfold?
I first forgave them a very long time ago. You know, I was a teenager when I first forgave my biological parents. But I always remind people, I think forgiveness is a deliberate choice that we have to make, and it's not a one-time event. It's a process where you have to forgive over and over again. And so, you know, now at this point in my life, I'm a mother, I have my own children. When they were born, I looked upon their lives, and I had to forgive again because it brought up all of those old emotions and thoughts that I had worked through.
I think this whole issue of adoption and abortion, I mean, you can look at it as you were rejected from the beginning, which is one way, or you can look at it like no matter what people try to do to you, God had a plan for your life. It is a little bit about how we frame things, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's all about perspective. And certainly I think everybody will go through a point in time where they might feel that rejection. I think that's pretty common, especially for abortion survivors that I know. But by and large, yeah, when you shift that perspective and you realize no matter what, God had a purpose and a plan for me, and no matter who else loves me, He loves me so much. Holding on to that is life-changing.
It's an incredible story, and you know, you started looking. You think about adoptions kids who look for their biological parents. You kind of understand that's seeking for your roots, but abortion survivors seeking for your biological parents is like, it's like a victim trying to find the person who victimized them in a sense, right? Why did you decide to go looking for your roots?
Well, there were a couple of reasons. I had questions, right? I wanted to know why an adoption plan couldn't have just been made for me in the first place. But more importantly, I wanted my birth my birth parents to know that I knew the truth and I'm not angry, I'm not bitter, that I've led this incredibly blessed life.
Okay, Melissa, so you decided to start searching for your mom. Tell me about, and your dad as well, actually. Tell me how that unfolded.
I started looking for them when I was 19, so almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And it took me over 10 years to find them. It took me 10 years to obtain my medical records. You know, I lovingly refer to those years as my desert because I learned to really submit myself to God's will in that time, that if I was supposed to find them, if I was supposed to obtain my medical records, if I was supposed to come forward publicly, God would make a way. And of course he did.
How tough was it when you read your medical records?
It was incredibly difficult. Even though it was affirming, right, to read those words and know how I struggled for my life, how that attempt was made on my life, at the same time it was very hard to read about what was done to me and how I did have to fight for my life.
And how did you end up connecting? I know you never connected with your dad, and he unfortunately died before you ever could. Tell me about finding your mom.
Yeah, my birth father passed away about 9 years ago now. And I had had some contact with my birth mother's family about 10 years ago and had kind of really learned to live in peace, knowing I may never have contact with her. And of course, when I was at peace with that and comfortable, then God made a way once again. And so it was 4 years ago now that one of her family members contacted me. That's ultimately how I found out my grandmother forced the abortion upon my birth mother, that it wasn't her choice. And, you know, I ultimately learned probably the greatest secret, and that is that my birth mother spent over 30 years of her life believing that I had died that day.
Because her mother told her that. So what is the backstory? What happened that brought your mom to that desperate moment?
Really, she had no other option. I mean, when I say that it was forced upon her, literally, she did not want to have that abortion. And she did not have any choice. And she's lived with incredible regret for the last 50-some years. But what I love about how God works is that she now knows that I'm alive and well, and she is loved and forgiven. And I wish everybody could have a story like this.
It is not the everyday story, which is why you're here. Tell me about meeting your mom, your birth mom, for the first time.
You know, I searched for her and never knew if it would really happen. And it was such a blessing, an honor to meet her and wrap my arms around her and give her a hug. And of course, now knowing the amount of pain and suffering that she's gone through in her life, it means even more to me.
I know there's people watching right now who have gone through the process of abortion and, you know, have lost those kids and maybe living with regret. If someone's watching, what would you want to tell them?
That they are loved, that they are forgiven, you know, that God is waiting to offer them that forgiveness. And I think sometimes it's hardest to forgive ourselves. And so there are great resources in people's communities. They can, you know, get in touch with people here, I'm sure, too, to get connected to resources, to find healing in their own lives.